Hello and welcome to the Life and Love podcast, a conversation designed to help you have healthy relationships, become the person you truly want to be, and overall get the most out of life.
We're your hosts, Dominic and Emily Whitfield. Thank you so much for joining, and stay tuned as we learn and grow together.
Hi guys, what's up?
What's happening?
We're actually filming today. It's kind of fun.
I know. This is really cool. I'm excited. We're back.
We're back.
This is official. We're back in business.
Yes.
Season number 2 of the Life and Love podcast.
I
So excited.
was supposed to do that part.
Oh. Well.
He took my part, you guys,
Sorry.
but it's okay. Season 2 is now underway.
Yes.
And we're really excited about it. Season 1 was really awesome. I think it was really cool for me to have people that we haven't seen in a long time or heard from in a long time reach out to us and say, hey, this really impacted me. I even had one person say, like, I want to use this in one of my talk messages or counseling sessions. Can I use this? I'll mention you guys. Like,
What?
that's awesome.
You can tell me that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yes. What was your favorite part of season 1?
I think just sitting down and talking with you about just conversations that we never have.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, like we don't take the time to just sit and talk to each other. Like at the end of the day, we're on our phones, we're watching TV.
We're the worst.
Or we're in bed. So
Yeah.
it kind of forced us to like sit down and chat with each other.
Yeah, and it was cool because like I feel like this might be very arrogant of us or me to say, but like I feel like we provided a lot of value to a lot of people. Like we gave a lot of really cool insight, and if not even insight, just like brought up good questions to ask. But I think we maybe learned and grew more than anybody else.
That's true.
Because we were, like you said, we were forced to have these conversations that we wouldn't normally. Like I think of the conflict resolution one, that was a really good conversation. And I think it's cool because like a lot of people don't talk about how they resolve conflict until they're in it, and that's the worst time to talk about how to resolve it. So it's like you need to have a conversation on, hey, when we do get in a fight, what is this fight going to look like? You know, like you set the rules for your fight. You can't do that when you're already angry. Yeah. So it's cool to like talk through these things, but we're really excited for this season. Season number 2, we have a lot of cool things coming at you guys at the end of this season. So all of our seasons are going to be broken up into about 15 episodes, 15 conversations. So if you haven't got to listen to season 1, you can go back and listen to the podcast. But at the end of season 2, we're going to actually be launching our first book, our first devotional. So we'll have a 30-day devotional ready for you guys at the end of the season, along with some merch and some other cool things. But it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited. Yeah. Super pumped. And we're on YouTube now, so you guys can actually see us, which is kind of weird to do. But anyways, it's going to be fun. So we're going to get into today, and the first topic to launch us on season number 2 is going to be a really cool one. I hate this topic. I feel like it's the worst part about me. Like it's my weak point.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a lot of people's weak points. Like it is.
It is.
It's hard. We're talking about vulnerability and being vulnerable with not just your husband or wife, but just people in general, and learning how to open up to people.
It's so hard. That
is literally the worst. So we have an idea, and we want to give you guys at the beginning of every conversation this idea that basically encapsulates what we're going to talk about. And just something to take with you that's quick, easy to remember. Emily, what's the idea today? It's right here on my phone.
Oh, you make me read it?
Yeah, I told you you were going to do this part.
No, I didn't know that. Okay, trust creates openness. Oh, I knew that.
Yeah, you did. Trust creates openness. So we just break down this segment into that sentence, and whatever you leave, whatever you take away from this conversation, take away this idea that trust creates this opportunity for people to be open with one another. If there's no trust, there's no vulnerability. Right. And so you really have to work hard at creating trust. But I want to look at kind of where vulnerability started. It's cool. We can actually find where exactly this idea of like people being bad at being vulnerable actually started. And it's in the Bible. It's in Genesis chapter 3. Starts with verse 6. And to set this up, for those of you who don't know, this is a really familiar story, so I'm sure all of you know, but God created Adam and Eve. He put them in a garden. He told them not to eat this tree, and the tree was called, the fruit of the tree was called knowledge of good and evil. He said, don't eat that fruit. Well, we all know what happened. They ate the fruit. And so in verse 6, it picks up when Eve is eating the fruit, it says, so when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree was desirable, I can't read, to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. This is where it all comes into play. Their eyes were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. And they heard the sound of the Lord walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord among the trees of the garden. Then the Lord called to Adam and said to him, "Where are you?" So he said, "I heard your voice in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked and hid myself." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat?" And then story goes on from there. But it's this crazy interaction between God and the first man that he ever created. It was like this just utopia that God created for Adam, that just perfect environment. Him and his wife were living there, and they eat of this fruit, and all of a sudden this like fear of being vulnerable comes upon them. Yeah. They see that they're naked. They get reserved. They hide themselves. They hide from God because they're afraid of being open. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And like from that moment on, I feel like every human deals with this fear of being open. Vulnerable. It's crazy. Yep. It's crazy to think, like, what if they didn't eat the fruit? Yeah. We would just be walking around naked?
Probably. You'd love that.
It would be cold. It's like 20 degrees. I would love that. Anyways, moving on quickly.
Well, okay. Yeah, let's move on.
Yes, let's not explain that. But yeah, it's just crazy to think about. Like, you even think of people saying, like, oh, I have this fear of public speaking, right? Like, it's like the number one fear. Yeah. Well, your fear is probably not public speaking. That's not hard. Your fear is probably standing in front of hundreds or thousands or millions of people and allowing them to judge you. Right. Like that, you're afraid of being vulnerable. Yeah. That's what it is. It's not necessarily public speaking. So like, it's crazy how like this topic kind of traces back through all of our personalities, our traits. Like it just kind of connects with all of us. But so Emily and I have gathered a couple questions, and we're going to practice vulnerability for you guys. So we have gathered a few questions.
I'm already sweating.
I know it's last time we did this, it did not go well. But we're going to ask each other a few questions, and we have to be open and vulnerable, and this is going to be uncomfortable. And we're married, so this shouldn't even be weird, but I'll go first. I'll make you uncomfortable first.
Oh, I'm nervous.
No, this is an easy one. So the first question is this: do you have any habits that you want to change?
Yes. You already know. You did that on purpose.
Just a little encouragement. I wanted you to publicly state it so that you'd have to hold yourself accountable.
That is so wrong. You did that on purpose. You know, all the things that I want to change. Yes.
I mean, you don't have to. Well, this is vulnerability time.
Yes, I will share.
Share one. Top habit.
Top habit?
Yeah. Since there's so many that you want to change.
I mean, I want to read my word more. It's a horrible habit. I just don't take the time to do it.
It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not.
Especially when you have two kids that wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
No,
7 o'clock in the morning.
They don't.
Feels like 3 o'clock in the morning.
It does. It feels like 3 o'clock.
That's a good habit
that
to
and
change.
Like working out. Like I don't work out.
Okay, you're putting yourself on blast here.
I'm just sharing. I'm being vulnerable.
Okay, all right.
I'm being vulnerable.
It is hilarious, though, because she'll, like, go around the house and she's like, oh, my body hurts. Oh, this hurts. I'm like, babe, you got to work out.
If I work out, my body will hurt more.
Okay, anyways, we're not starting this.
And this is true.
Your turn. Go ahead. Question number 1.
Okay. What do you think was the most vulnerable moment in our relationship?
Wedding night.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
So Emily and I, like, obviously, when we got married, we waited to have sex, and so both of us had never had sex before, and it was like the scariest moment / best moment. Like it was just a weird combination of like, this is so amazing, but I'm actually really terrified to do this at the same time. So
I remember we were dancing, we were about to leave the wedding, and I was like with my girlfriends like freaking out, like I don't want to do this. I don't know if I would, like I'm really scared. And
but it was too late at that point.
It was too late.
You had already said I do.
Yeah, it was too late.
But I mean,
it actually wasn't that bad.
It wasn't.
I'm saying the vulnerable part. Just like
okay.
Once we were there, it was fine.
Yeah.
We were fine.
It was the build up to it.
The build up is like, ah.
Yeah, that was scary. Okay, question number 2. What's one secret you've wanted to tell me but you never have? I would be surprised if there was a secret.
I know,
because you're pretty open.
Very open.
Also, don't hurt my feelings right now.
A secret? I don't know that I have one.
Okay,
sorry to disappoint.
No, that's good. No, I would be disappointed if you had a secret and you didn't tell me the last 6 years of our marriage. Okay.
I'm gonna think on that turn. Though, because there might be one.
No, there better not be.
Okay, my turn. What's one thing you feel like our relationship is lacking?
Ooh, I feel like I could get in a lot of trouble answering this question right now.
Just give me one thing.
Lacking. Let's see. Our relationship. Ooh. That's hard. How, like, I can't answer this right now.
Yes, you can. Being vulnerable.
Okay. And this isn't a slight to you.
I won't take offense.
Okay, you promise. So this isn't a slight to Emily, but I think that since we've had our kids, it's been hard to be completely invested in on both ends of the other person's interests. Like, because life for us has become strictly like necessity. Like the kids need to survive. So that's like our focus. And then we kind of hang out with each other. But like the extra stuff of like you being invested into what I just enjoy doing and me being invested into what you enjoy doing, I feel like has suffered the last like 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I think if one thing our relationship is missing is like you being more invested into what I like to do and enjoy doing. So you
want me to go golfing with you?
Long story short, I want you to go golfing with me. But no, I don't want you to just come golf with me. I want you to want to play golf. And I know that's never going to happen, so I'm fine with it. But likewise, like I think I also need to be more invested in what you like to do, you know?
Okay.
Is that a good answer? You said you wouldn't be mad.
No, I'm not mad.
Okay, good.
I agree. Okay. I think, too, also that we should, just spend more time together. Yeah. Like dates and stuff. Yeah. We just don't do that.
Yeah. Like especially with like the COVID stuff that's been going on all year. Like it's just like it's hard to even do anything. And now like anyways, okay.
Now it's like we don't want to go somewhere and wear a mask.
Yeah, it's silly. Okay, question number 3. Here we go. You ready?
Yes.
If you woke up tomorrow with absolutely zero fear, you had all the time, all the babysitters, all the money, what would you do right away? You had no fear. You had no, like, I got a doctor's appointment. You know, like, you had, your slate was clean. My mom was watching the kids. We had $1 million in the bank. What would we do?
There's a lot of things I do with, like, free time and a lot of money.
Sleep.
No.
I would take a nap.
I would sleep.
Yes.
But you said, like, no fear. Like, it has to be something that scares
No fear.
me?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to. I don't know. It was just a question I saw. That was interesting.
I think, like, either taking a crazy-ass vacation. I wanted, like, the one thing I wish that we would have done more before having kids was, like, travel the world.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to do that.
We didn't do that. Well, we also didn't have the money to do that.
We were poor and
so,
had kids. It's a double no-no.
Yeah. So I think, like, traveling with you would be really cool.
Yeah.
Although I would like to take the kids, too. Or, just totally design the house.
Ooh, okay.
Because
I like the travel one better.
I know you do.
I don't want to wake up to you designing the house. That sounds terrible.
I just want to decorate. Like, I want to get everything that I want to get for the house. And
you guys should see our bedroom. We'll do the next podcast in our bedroom. It's like a insane asylum. It's just white walls.
It's
just white.
We don't even have a bed frame.
Terrible. Okay, what's your number 3 question?
Okay, what about our relationship makes you really, really happy? Okay. You have to think about it.
I mean, do you want me to give a cheesy answer? Okay. Your love for me is so awesome.
Okay, what is it?
Okay, this is my for real answer. I think that this is a problem sometimes, but I feel like we've learned to handle the negative side of it very well. So now we're enjoying like just the good side of it. But Emily and I are both very like passive people. So like we don't get in like very many confrontational fights often, which is not as good as it seems because a lot of times we'll suppress things and then it'll get drawn out and it's like 2 weeks and we're like, it's terrible. But I feel like we've been really good at that lately, and so now we're enjoying just like a very peaceful, like, I never have to worry with you, like, oh my goodness, she's going to be mad or blah, 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 or she's going to say this. Like, it's just very, I feel like our relationship's very peaceful.
Makes you happy?
Yes. It's nice. I feel like that would make anybody happy.
Yeah.
To have a peaceful relationship with somebody you are forced to live with.
Yeah. I remember one thing he told me when we were together. He said, I knew you were the one when I didn't get annoyed with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I guess that's a compliment. Thank you.
It is. You're welcome.
But a diss to all your other girlfriends.
Well. Anyways, moving on. Is that, you asked the third one?
Yeah, that was the third one.
Okay, so we're going to go into talk a little bit about how to combat this like tendency of hiding. So like we read, Adam and Eve, they hid from God. They didn't want to be open. They didn't want to be vulnerable. And I feel like if I'm not careful, and I feel like people in general, our go-to is just like Adam, like instinctually to hide. Like our go-to is to hide, to cover, to not let people in. Because if people come in, then they can see everything and then they can judge us and they can hurt us and all this stuff. So like, how can we combat that feeling of wanting to go and hide all the time, especially in important relationships? Because I think it's important to say that, like, we're not saying that you need to be vulnerable with every person you meet. Like, there's different levels of relationship that you have, but it is important that you're vulnerable with, like, your wife or your husband. Like, those are important relationships to be vulnerable in. Or your family or, like, close friends. Like, that's important. So, how do we do that? How do we, like, combat
forcing yourself not to?
Yeah. Like, what are some things that we can do?
I don't know. Like, fun. Yeah, because it's a lot of different things. Yeah. Because.
Let me ask you this: what do you do whenever you don't want me to see something or hear something or know something about you, but you know that I should? How do you handle that?
Yeah, that's hard because, that's really difficult. I don't know how else to say that. It's just really hard to be able to, sit down and get over that fear and be that vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I never was really, hurt a lot in the past by men or... Yeah. So, for me, I feel like it was easy to be able to just trust you and share sensitive things with. Yeah. But, yeah. So, for me, it wasn't that hard. Yeah. But I know that for other people, it can be really difficult.
And I think you said something there that is really what we're wanting to land on is, like, you have to have an environment where you feel comfortable or you trust the other person. Mm-hmm. Like,
you had given me no reason not to trust you to be able to share things with you.
Right. And I think, like, a lot of people out there that you alluded to might have thought that they could trust people, or they thought that, oh, yeah, this person, I can trust them with this information, and then they find out that they couldn't, and then it's like, then they get hurt, then walls go up, then it's harder for them to open up. Like, I remember at the beginning of our relationship, I had just gotten out of a pretty bad relationship, and it was a relationship where I couldn't trust this girl. She was always, like, talking to somebody else or, like, having weird relationships with somebody else, and so it really took a toll on me to the point where at the beginning of our relationship, there were times where, like, you would get a text message when we would be together, and, like, just these walls would come up out of nowhere, and I'd be like, oh, she's talking to somebody else. Like, I'm not sharing this information with her. I'm not gonna, like, get any closer, and it just was really stressful because,
to the point of, like, him having dreams that I was cheating on him or something.
And I honestly, I still do. I had a dream.
Really?
The other night. I was
sad.
Terrible. But I know you wouldn't.
No.
I hope so. Unless that's the secret that you haven't told me. Stop winking at the camera. Anyways. But yeah, so, like, that line of trust is really hard. So I think, like, the first thing that we need to get to and really understand is that in order to be vulnerable, there has to be trust in the relationship. And trust isn't something that you can just, like, hey, you can trust me. Right. Like, trust is earned, it's gained, it grows. It's like a plant. Like, you have to start at a very foundational level and work your way up to these bigger things with people.
Right.
You have to be able to trust them.
That's really good.
So what made you trust me so much? That's a tricky.
Well, I could just tell you cared about my heart. Like, you just cared about me as and I think early on too we talked about getting married early on too, and so I knew that was like a big commitment, and for someone to say like, this is my goal with you, I could trust you in your word with that. I also had a really good example in my own father, and so that obviously really helps with like trusting men and but with you, I think I just noticed like you were in for the long haul. Like you told me like, look, my intentions is to date and marry you. Like, if we're dating, it's to marry you. And so like, I'm not here to like mess around and just like hang out. So I was like, okay, he's serious.
Your boy got game, guys. Did I just ruin that moment?
Yeah, you did. But I take it all back.
Anyways, so, but like what you said, I think it's so, and I'm going to pat myself on the back, because that was something that I knew would make you feel comfortable enough to begin to open up. Because like, I think that a lot of times... Because
that was my goal too.
Yeah, and once we knew that we're on the same page, like, it's, okay, this is easier. So like, being clear and upfront before like a crucial moment in the relationship, and this doesn't have to just be like dating or husband and wife. Like, if you have a friend and you just don't like, and here's the thing, we all have friends when we were kids and we hung out and went to school, but once you become a young adult and you start living your life, you don't just have buddies, like, you have friends for specific reasons and specific levels of friendships. Like, I'm not going to invite just any one of my friends to come over. Like, I've got my basketball friends and my golfing friends, and my relationships, people know, like, okay, this is what I expect out of this relationship. Like, this is what I want from you. This is kind of how far we're going to go. Obviously, you don't have to say these things out loud, but when you lay out the framework of what you expect from somebody, it's easier for you and the other person to gauge how vulnerable and open they can be or should be at that point. Like, if I came to you and said, hey, I think you're cute, let's just mess around for a few weeks. Like, you're automatically going to know, okay, I can only open up so much because this guy, I don't know what's going to happen. So it's like, that clarity brings so much, like, ability to be able to gauge where you're at.
Yeah.
Or where you should be. How
vulnerable you can be.
And I think that if you don't have that, I think, number one, you should give it to that other person, but also ask for it. I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, if I hadn't said that to you, I don't think there would be anything wrong with you saying, hey, what are your intentions here? Like, what's the end game? Are you just messing around with me? Like, what? Because you need that clarity in order to move forward, in order to really open up.
Yes, I agree completely.
Yeah. And I think also, so along with that, I think like creating an opportunity to really trust the other person and showing that you're a trustworthy person is the number one way. Showing it is the number one way to create a safe place for people to be vulnerable. It just, you have to be able to trust people.
Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah, and I would say, like, too, don't rush it. Don't, like, if you haven't been good at creating trust in a relationship, don't listen to this and go to them and say, like, hey, I want you to trust me now. I'm trustworthy. Like, tell me all your deepest, darkest secrets. Vulnerable. Yeah, like, it's not going to work like that.
It takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, and you have to prove your trustworthiness. So, final thought, as we wrap up first conversation of season 2, is why is being vulnerable important? Why is what we just spent the last 15 minutes talking about even worth listening to?
It's important because if we weren't vulnerable with each other, we wouldn't be able to grow closer together. Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I wrote down, because we talked about this a little bit before, but you can't love what you don't know. You can't love what you don't know. And I think that's so important when we think about, like, context of a relationship, right? It's impossible for me to love Emily if I don't know who she is. If she's constantly projecting this, like, false image of what she thinks she is or what she wants to be, or basically doing what Adam and Eve did and hiding her true self and projecting this fake person, then I would be falling in love with not her, somebody else that she's projecting. Falling in love. Right, I wouldn't be falling in love with you because I don't know you. And so in order to truly love, you have to be known. You have to be vulnerable. You have to open up. And that's so dangerous because not only do you fall in love that way, but you can also be rejected. Yeah. You can be hurt. You can be let down. And I think that's why it's so hard for us to be so open and vulnerable with people, because the moment we open up, it's like these two huge outcomes are weighing in the balance. And it's like, you're either going to see who I really am and hate it, or you're going to love me.
You're going to accept it.
Yeah, you're going to accept it. And that's the only way we can have love.
Yeah.
So is to take that risk with people.
Yeah, it's a risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why a lot of people are afraid to fall in love.
To fall in love.
Yeah.
Not the Hallmark movies. They're ready. They're good.
Ready to go.
They got it figured out. But being vulnerable opens your true self up to somebody else. And I think that once we are able to present who we really are to the other person, within that trust, and that's why trust is important, because if I trust Emily, I can present to her who I really am, and she can love me for it. And we have such an incredible example of being open, being vulnerable, putting yourself out there in the Word of God, in the Bible. I think this is such a cool like analogy to draw here, because I tell people all the time in the church setting that you can't love God if you don't know Him, and you can't know Him unless you read His Word, because the Bible tells us that Jesus was the Word in flesh. Like, the Word of God is God's way of opening Himself up to an extent to say, this is who I am. Like, here, this is me. I'm being vulnerable with you. I'm being open with you. And once we open this up and read it and learn about who God is, the more we do that, the more we fall in love with God. The more we see Him, the more we know Him, the more we're like, man, God, I'm just drawn to you. I think it's such a perfect picture of the power of being vulnerable with people. Like, if you can appropriately open yourself up to others and be confident in knowing that, like, I can be vulnerable and it can lead to success in this relationship, let me let you read who I am so that you can fall in love with me. I think that once we can get to that point and kind of mimic what God did for us, our relationships are only going to get deeper.
Yeah.
You know, like, we talked about it at the beginning of this episode, but like having these conversations between us has really helped us grow, because we're talking about things we never have before. And like, we're opening up, we're answering questions that we've never thought to ask before. And it's one of those things where the more you read, as nerve-wracking as it is to let you read it, like, you appreciate it and you fall in love with it, hopefully. A little bit, some of it. Rats. I tried. I don't know what to say. Never being vulnerable with you again. Shutting down. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. That was a really cool conversation. I'm glad we started off the season with that, because I'm still afraid to be open sometimes. It's just awkward, you know? Like, it
shouldn't be awkward anymore. We've been married for almost 6 years.
Weird. It's just weird. I don't want to tell you about my feelings.
Tell me everything.
No, that's weird. And with that, we wrap up another great conversation. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.
As always, live right, love everyone, and pray hard.